Hello everybody. We are going to dive into another lesson in algebra. This is our last section that we're going to cover in chapter 8. We're in section 8-8 and we're going to factor by grouping. What I'd like for you to be able to do by the end of this lesson is to be able to factor an expression by grouping when it has 4 terms in it. So here are just some kind of little bullet points for you to know when factoring by grouping. So sometimes your expression is already in 4 terms instead of 3. So far we've only factored trinomials, and then we had to rewrite the middle term to get it as 4 terms. But these examples are already going to be in 4 terms. We're going to factor these by grouping, so we're still going to split it up into the first half and the second half. And when it's possible, you're going to want to pull out a GCF, but only do that if it is a possibility. So let's jump into these examples where we're going to factor each expression by grouping. In example A, we have 2x cubed plus 2x squared plus 3x plus 3. Notice how there's 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't have to rewrite anything because it's already set up the way I need it to be. So I'm just going to group the first 2 terms together, and then I'm going to group the last 2 terms together. Okay. Now I'm going to follow the same process that we've done in all of our other lessons. What is the GCF of the first 2 terms? Well, I can pull a 2 out, and then I can pull an x squared out. I can pull x squared out because this one has x cubed and this one has x squared, so I want to pull out as many as possible. So now when I divide 2x squared out of each term, 2x cubed divided by 2x squared only leaves me x. 2x squared divided by 2x squared is 1, so plus 1. It is not 0, it is 1. 0 would occur if you're subtracting something, but when we divide and things cancel, that's going to reduce to a positive 1. Now look at the second half. What's the GCF of the second half? Well, we can pull a positive 3 out, but when I divide positive 3 out, I'm left with x plus 1 as well. For the last step, all we're going to do is rewrite. So notice I'm going to factor out the common factor of x plus 1. And then what do I have remaining? So I factored out this, and I factored out this. But what do I have remaining? I still have this 2x squared as well as that 3 right there. So I'm going to have 2x squared plus 3. And there's our solution. Let's do that again in example B. So is there a GCF? There is no GCF in this one. There's not a number I can pull out of everything. So I'm going to group the first 2 terms together. And then I'm grouping the second 2 terms together. And now I'm looking at the first 2. What am I able to divide out of both of these? Well, I'm able to divide a 4, and then they both have x's in them. They both have x squared in them, so I'm going to pull an x squared out. Now when I divide that, I'm going to be left with 2x plus 3. 8 divided by 4 is 2. X cubed with an x squared pulled out is x. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and x squared with an x squared pulled out. There are no x's remaining. Now I'm going to pull out the GCF of the part underlined in green, and that is going to be a positive 5. What do I have remaining when I divide each term by 5? I've got 2x plus 3 remaining. So now it's time for us to rewrite this, and that will be our solution. We will have 4x squared plus 5 times 2x plus 3. Remember, the order in which you write your 2 parentheses is not going to change the value of your solution. And to check your work, you can multiply the binomials back out. So I'm going to make a little note. To check your work, multiply the binomials back out. Okay, Moving on to example C. In example C, it says 10x cubed plus 5x squared plus 4x plus 2. I still don't have a GCF in all of the terms, so I'm going to move on to the grouping. I'm going to pair the first two together, and then I'm going to pair the last two together. Now it's time for me to pull out a GCF. For the first two, I can divide a 5 out of both of them. And then I can also pull an x squared out. Now I'm dividing 5x squared out of both of these terms that are underlined in pink. Ignore the back part right now. And I'm pulling 5 out of 10. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. X cubed divided by x squared is x. So I have 2x. Now I have 5x squared divided by 5x squared, which will be positive 1. For the next part, I'm going to pull a positive 2 out because that's the GCF, and when I do that, I get 2x plus 1 remaining. Now, all we need to do is rewrite. Notice that the parentheses are matching, so we are able to move on. This is going to be 5x squared plus 2 times 2x plus 1. Example D is a little bit different than what we've done in the previous problems. The difference is that all of these numbers are even. Because all of the numbers are even, that means that there is a GCF of 2, or at least of 2, but in this case the GCF is 2. So we are going to want to pull that out. So I'm going to put a 2 up front, and then I'm going to divide all of the terms by 2. So that's going to be 6x cubed plus 21x squared plus 8x plus 28. Now, do not let that 2 throw you off. It's just hanging out up front, and we're going to keep carrying it down. We're now going to divide the part that's in parentheses into 2 halves. And we're going to follow the same process as what we've been doing. So I'm going to pull my 2 down, put a parenthesis, and then another parenthesis. No, I'm not. That other parenthesis doesn't matter right now, I guess. So what can I pull out of 6x cubed and 31x squared? Well, both of these are divisible by 3, so I'm going to pull a 3 out. And then I can also pull an x squared out. Now what do I have remaining? So ignore the 2's and ignore this back part. I'm pulling 3x squared out of 6x squared. I have 2x remaining there. Then I'm pulling the 3x squared out of the 21x squared. Okay, so 21 divided by 3 is 7, and x squared divided by x squared cancels each other out. So I'm going to say plus 7 right there. Now let's focus on the part underlined in green. I'm ignoring all of this. 8x and 28x. What can I divide out of both of them? I'm able to divide a 4 out of both of them, so I'm going to say plus 4. But when I divide 4 out of both, I get 2x plus 7 remaining. Now it's time for us to rewrite. When we're rewriting, notice what's matching. First, I have some matching parentheses, and then I've also got that 2 hanging out up front. I'm going to factor out the matching parentheses so you can see that. So I've got 2x plus 7. So I got rid of that guy and I got rid of that guy. What did I not factor out yet? Well, I still have this 3x squared and that plus 4. So I'm going to carry that down as well. 3x squared plus 4. So took care of those. Now I have this 2 that I need to bring down up front as well. And there's your solution. We've got one more like that where we're going to pull a GCF out, and then that'll be all for today's notes. This one is also going to have a GCF. And I know that it's going to have a GCF because all of these numbers are even. Now, when I divide them by 2, in particular this 14, I'm going to get a 7. So that's going to be a good indication that 2 is the largest factor that I can pull out, because otherwise I would get another even number here, but it's a 7, which is prime. Okay, So I'm going to pull a 2 out of everything, getting me 2x cubed plus 8x squared plus 7x plus 28. This 2 is just going to hang out up front, and we're going to keep pulling it down for each step. Now we want to group our 4 terms into 2 halves. So the first 2 are right here, and the second 2 back here. Whoops, dropped my pen. Okay, so now we've got our 2 up front. What can I pull? Ignore the green, ignore this up front. What can I pull out of both 2x cubed and 8x squared? Well, I can divide 2 out of both of them. And I can also divide x squared out of both of them. When I pull 2x squared out of both of them, I am left with x plus 4. Now, I'm focusing on the part underlined in green. 7x and 28. What can be divided into both of these? Well, in both of these, I can pull a positive 7 out. But when I divide 7 out of each of those terms, I get x plus 4 remaining. So now we have matching parentheses, and all we need to do is rewrite for our last step. So I'm going to say x plus 4. And that's taking care of this guy and this guy. I also have 2x squared plus 7. I'm getting that from right here and right here. So 2x squared plus 7, that's that part. And now I need to take care of the 2 by carrying it over up front. Now everything is accounted for, and there's my solution. And that's how you factor by grouping. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I'll see you in class soon.